Hey, everybody. For some reason, I have decided to enter into an era of my life where it's time to talk about all the things that you're not supposed to talk about if you want people to not think you're crazy. Just checking everything off the list. The other day, I put out a video about disclosure and communicating with extraterrestrials in shapeshifter form. And today, I'm going to talk about clairvoyance and precognition. I know that there are people out there that are having the same experience as me, and I know that because I do hair. And if you do hair, then you talk to a lot of women. And I talk to a lot of women every single day, and I have for almost 20 years with my hands in women's hair talking to them about real life stuff. And precognition and clairvoyance and being tuned in and tapped in and whatever you call that, whatever wording suits you, that's what I want to talk about today. And I can only speak about it from the vantage point of my experience. And I want to start by saying I'm still very much confused by that. I am not some old sage that has like all this wisdom about it. I am a human being having a very bizarre experience my entire life with precognition and clairvoyance that I still have yet to understand. What I'm saying is I am like mid process in understanding what I'm going through. I've got a few things figured out. I have it a lot more figured out than I used to. Used to be totally clueless, confused, and struggling. And now I'm getting it. 34, I'm getting it. I'm just now starting to be like, okay, I got this. But I want to talk about my history with precognition and clairvoyance. The reason I'm separating those terms and I'm using two terms instead of one, because people use all kinds of terminology for this stuff. I mean, it gets exhausting when you get into it. I am using precognition in reference to visions of the future in dream state, and I'm using clairvoyance for a waking state. So I'm using those two terms to describe two aspects of the same experience. At least they feel like the same experience. If you use different wording for this, drop it in the comments. Tell me what you call it because I've heard so many different terms. And I've been a student of this my whole life so far. Even though I'm only 34, I have studied this and been obsessed with this since I was literally a kid into my teens, young adults up until now, mostly out of a desire to understand what the heck I'm dealing with and how to deal with it and how to cope with it and how to roll with it and things like that. So I'm using the terms precognition to refer to whatever this is in my dream state, and I'm using clairvoyance to refer to it in my waking state because they have a different flavor. They present differently, obviously. They are surrounding different things, at least for me. I know people have different experiences, and those labels feel right. When I was younger, growing up in a religious context, it was called the gift of dreams, which is like a gift of the Holy Spirit, like the gift of dreams and stuff. And it gets very tricky and very divisive when it comes to religious people. Thank goodness I'm out of those environments now and I don't have to work within that framework and I can finally like study this and talk about this and talk to people and not use that biblical terminology. I still sometimes slip into using the gift of dreams. It just rolls off the tongue and I don't have anything negative against that terminology. It just does come with a religious context and some baggage that I'd rather not have. But yeah, gift of dreams is fine terminology as well. Going back to when I was a kid, it was not fun. And to be completely honest with you, it's still kind of not fun. I think it's something from the outside that sounds really cool. I think, and I want to make this super clear. I am not ungrateful for this gifting, ability, situation, perception, whatever you want to call it. I don't even like the term gifting because that implies that someone else was not given a gift, okay? Let's touch on this real quick. Hold up. Let's say if you grew up in a religious context, you knew that people had different giftings through the Holy Spirit. They were like, they could speak in tongues and they were like gifted the language of the Holy Spirit, yada, yada. And it would imply and do a lot of damage to people that didn't have that because they weren't given what was wrong with them. Like with Christmas, when it's like, if you're good, Santa will bring you presents. It feels a lot like that. So I even stumble a little bit with the terminology gifting. Like I have this gift because it implies a hierarchy and it implies that other people don't have this gift. And I actually don't believe that. I believe that everyone has this gift, specifically women. I simply think that faucet, when you enter the earth is open or closed a little bit more than someone else. And that might not even be from any spiritual or woo woo. I mean, there's a lot of science right now about like microtubules and structures in the brain that are actually showing, just like you could compare a neurotypical brain and an autistic brain, they're going to light up differently. I think it's the same thing when it comes to clairvoyance, gift of dreams, precognition, things like that. So I want to take that hierarchy out of that wording, but I do want to say that from the outside, someone else may look at this gifting or this ability or leaning, and they might be like, oh, that's so cool. I wish I had that. Let me tell you, it has not been cool at all. It has been one of the biggest, most challenging, confusing, gut wrenching, horrendous things I've ever dealt with in my life. Now, I have learned from talking with enough other people that have precognition and clairvoyance that people get different flavors. Okay. Some people, it's like love and light and rainbows and all this cool stuff that's going to come to pass. I didn't get that flavor when I was passing down the conveyor belt in the checkout line when whoever upstairs was putting me together, they decided to give me the not fun one. Yeah, and so I think you can see where I'm going with this, and then I'll double back to childhood real quick. When it comes to clairvoyance and precognition for me, my entire life with ungodly amounts of consistency, my gifting or particular flavor of gifting has been negative. It has been surrounding death, illness, transitions, dark spaces, yeah, anything like that. Now, I'm not mad about that. I have dealt with a lot of confusion and emotional burdens from that, but I'm not mad about that. If anything, it has given me so much more fearlessness when it comes to death, the other side, illness, struggle. And I do feel like I have an ability to help people a lot more through those times because I feel so comfortable in that zone. I'm not phased by those things as much as, your average Joe would be. And I think it's because of that particular flavor of clairvoyance or precognition that I was given. Doubling back to when I was a kid, this was really not fun. Just to set the scene, as I've talked about in a lot of other videos, I was raised in a hyper religious environment. High control, cult like, religious, evangelical Christian, fundamentalist, like locked down, the whole deal. That's the context of the environment I was raised in. So anything that comes out of my body, out of my mind, out of my mouth, the way I present myself is run through that filter. I came with this hardware installed. My earliest memories, I have precognitive memories and clairvoyant memories that predate physical memories in life, if that makes sense. So I remember dreams I had as a child before I even have like memories with my life and my family. So this was something that that I came out the womb with. This was popping off from the minute I reached Earthside. A lot of things that go on with us as people, women, whoever it is, we do not realize that they're different until we start to compare and contrast with other humans in the earth. And I'm going to tell you a moment that really made me realize that I was having different things. And I promise I'm going to double back to how this was viewed in my childhood because it's really significant to my life. I knew that I was having a little bit of different dreams because just touching on the context I was raised in, it was said, oh, you have the gift of dreams. And that's kind of where it stopped. There wasn't much guidance. There wasn't much more explanation. My mom said she had it too, which is true to this day. She has insane gift of dreams. It's like always popping off. It's crazy. It freaks me out, even though I have the gift of dreams. Um, and my mom had it too. So it kind of stopped at that. It was like, you have the gift of dreams. Boom, that's it. Going forward through life, I truly 110% thought that everyone had this to some degree. I knew some people dreamed a lot, some people dreamed a little, but I thought everybody's dreams were precognitive, which, just to define for anyone that's listening, precognitive basically means of the future, like predicting the future or interpreting situations that have not occurred yet or things like that. It's a real weird way to dream. I could do a whole other podcast on my dream mapping. It's a whole freaking thing that's taken me a lifetime to figure out. One of the times when I realized that this was a total shock, you have to realize I had the context of the religious filter. I was extremely sheltered, so I wasn't exposed to a lot of other kids and like different mindsets and things like that. And then I had frog in the water syndrome where, like, you kinda just think everyone's having the same experience as you, right? All those things added up to me being like, "Yeah, everyone has this, right?" Like, I knew there was a little bit of variety, but I figured everyone else had it. The movie Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio comes out what year? Let's find out. Let's consult Google. This is I don't even know. What year did Inception come out? Oh my god, this is crazy. 2010. Okay, that makes sense. That tracks. Okay. So, the movie Inception comes out, right? I graduated in 2010, right? And I remember seeing it after it came out. It had been out for a little while. I see the movie Inception and I'm confused. Everybody's raving about it, right? They're like, "Oh, this movie's amazing. It's groundbreaking. It's crazy." I was so confused by that movie because I shit you not, guys, I truly thought everyone was having that experience. So many of the things I know about myself has been from observing other people reacting to things in life because other people will react to something and I'm like, "That's not what's happening to me." So that's just a weird way to go about life. But basically, everyone's having this reaction to Inception, like, "It's so cool, da da da," and I'm like, "Yeah?" Like, this is I thought it was kinda lame, like, it kind of flopped for me because I was like, "Yep, that's yeah, the dream world." Then I go to find out from people's reactions and what they're saying online, the conversation surrounding this movie, it was my first inkling that is not the experience that everyone else is having in their dream world at all. At all. Some people don't dream at all. Some people have very vivid dreams. Some people have very realistic dreams. Some people have docile dreams. Some people have processing dreams where you're kind of just processing your life and it's just kind of like your little brain computer is like boop, things like that. That is not what's happening inside this little dome right here at all and never has been. So that was one of my first cues that something was really different that kind of took me in a direction of being like, wait, let me look into this. Always knew something was a little bit different. I had been told through the religious context that it was the gift of dreams, but I want to talk about another experience I had as a kid. Okay. When I started opening up, as a kid does, about the dreams that I was having, it was very instantaneously pathologized, which was very damaging for me. Like I open with saying, the particular flavor of clairvoyance and precognition that I have been given is very dark. I don't view it as dark. I don't view it as negative. It's just a certain side of life. Life has two sides, right? Black, white, life, death, good, bad. Mine particularly just happens to operate in the dark side of it. I'm pretty comfortable with that stuff. I'm drawn to that type of thing. But the context I was growing up in, it was a big deal. It was not cool. Then it started to get more serious. I remember having multiple instances of having precognitive dreams about people in my church that would die. This happens to people, you hear about it from time to time. For me, it was every time, every time. Now, I'm in a religious context. I'm told I have the gift of dreams. I'm not opening up to this about people yet because I'm like frog in the water, not really understanding what's going on. When kids aren't told what's going on, they fill in their own gaps. I literally believed for a number of years that because I would have a dream and then someone would die, I thought I was doing it. That was a legitimate conclusion that I came to in my childlike mind of being like, "Oh my god, it's me." I was like between like 5 and 7 when I came to this conclusion. 5, 6, 7, 8, going on through there. And within a church, you have lots of spans of ages. You have younger people, you have older people. Statistically, within their church community, there was a lot of older people. So they were passing away from old age and cancer and disease and things like that. So this is just statistical coincidence. Older people pass away. That's what they do. Now that's what I know. As a child, you don't really understand death. You don't understand people dying. All I know is I go to sleep in my cute little pink lace comforter bed. I dream about someone's death, funeral, their relatives sobbing, the whole thing in grand detail, way too much detail for a child. And then we go to church the next day, or my mom's on the phone, and so died. So I fill in the gap as a kid. I'm doing it. It's my fault. What do I do then? I start trying to force myself to stay awake. I'm scratching myself, I'm pinching myself, I'm pulling out hairs on my body to keep myself awake every time that I'll nod off because I'm afraid if I fall asleep that I will cause someone to die. Dead serious. Let's have some kombucha after that. Okay, so that sets a stage for how I was struggling. Then I start being like, I should tell someone about this. Like, I should talk about this. So I start opening up about dreaming about death, dreaming about these dark things, natural disasters, things like that. Fast forward to the future, I dreamt about September 11th before it happened. I remember telling my parents about that. Now, I'm going to open up here a little bit about probably one of the biggest woundings of my life. I'm not going to go too deep on it. If you were raised in a religious household and you were a demonstrative female, you were loud, maybe you had a couple behavioral problems, you were diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder, where are my ODD girls at? You know what I'm talking about? And you were raised in a religious context, a lot of times that was assigned as demonic. You see where I'm going with this? So there was already a framework because of my behavior and who I was as a kid that was causing my parental units to view me as demonic. That's about all I'm going to say about that. Now, segue that into what I'm coming with this gift of dreams. And I'm talking about the subject matter in my gift of dreams. Because at first it was like, oh, you have the gift of dreams. That's cute. Great. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. Then I'm like, hey, mine is about death and disease and destruction. Now it's demonic. See what I'm saying? So at a very young age, that gifting was pathologized for me. So I have the fear of thinking that I'm causing these negative things to happen because I'm having precognitive dreams about them. And I'm getting the messaging from the religious context that I'm being raised in that what I'm dealing with is demonic and that I have demons in me. I will do a whole nother podcast about how I spent most of my young life thinking that there were demons inside of me, going to Jesus camp and getting a literal exorcism. I can talk about that as well. But we're just going to focus on clairvoyance and precognition right now. So that was never fostered in me. I wasn't given any direction. I wasn't given any encouragement. I was given the opposite. Now, of course, because these things get passed down, my daughter has the gift of dreams, and I encourage that in her, and I love to hear about it, and I love to talk about it, and I love to say all these encouraging things to her about it. So I'm definitely breaking that generational curse with my daughter now. And these things, this was passed down from my grandmother into my mother, into me. I'm just floundering around trying to figure myself out. So it was pathologized for me as a kid. That was really difficult and really damaging. So what I did is stop talking about it. I zipped my lips 100%. So the idea of it being pathologized by the people in my life and me deciding to clam up and go shut it down affected it. It shut it down. I was like, turn it off. Kunk, turn the whole switch off. And that worked. I did that. I proceeded to have precognitive dreams and clairvoyance just as strongly. It didn't stop. It just didn't I didn't have a relationship with it. It was more something that was happening to me and not something that I was engaging with or living my life according to or anything like that. So I go on throughout my life to continue to have rampant clairvoyance and precognition my entire young life. Time passes, I get out of church environment, I leave home very young, I go out on my own. And I enter, kind of the secular world, the pagan world, the world of spirituality, metaphysics. I was like a hardcore psychonaut for many years, acquainted with the world and exposed to things that allowed me to reopen that door. And I'm telling you, even until my 20s, I was still pathologizing this gifting or perception in my mind because it centered around, like I said, the dark side of things. So even though I wasn't in the church anymore, even though I was totally open to pagan philosophies and witchcraft and magic and metaphysics and all these things, even though I was wide open to that stuff and practicing all that stuff, I was still mentally and internally pathologizing that side of myself. If people would ask about it, I would kind of clam up. I would kind of be like, "Eh." And I hadn't really sorted out, what if that was of the church? What if that was me? And I still had this gnawing feeling inside that there was something wrong with it and there was something bad. When I started opening myself up to different spiritual teachings and books and texts and practices, obviously you come across things like tarot and oracle reading and things like that. I met a woman through that Vivian is a tarot reader that works in like metaphysical types of things, and she's really, really gifted and wonderful guide and really helped me out a lot because I had never had a parental, guardian, mentor, maternal figure to speak with about this, to kind of resurrect this part of myself out of how it had been pathologized as a child. So I go to meet with her and we're about to do a reading or whatever. And she was like, "So let's talk about your gift." I've never had more than a 5-minute conversation with this woman. She was recommended to me by someone else. And she was like, "Yeah, let's talk about it." And I was like, "Great. What?" And so anyway, long story short, this woman draws this out of me. Like I finally admit, like, yeah, that's something I've been dealing with. And like I'm honestly really struggling because I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand what to do with it. I don't understand how to deal with it. And I don't understand why I've been given this particular flavor. She was able to give me real world advice and conversation surrounding this topic that I should have had as a child, if possible. I should have had someone saying, "Here's what's happening to you, here's how you deal with it." Or if you're a parental unit and you have a kid that has this, find them someone to talk to. Find them someone to speak to that is also dealing with this. I'll talk to a lot of people that are like, "Oh yeah, I dreamed the future once," or no, you need to talk to someone that is dealing with it at your level. You need to speak to someone that is also clairvoyant. You need to speak to someone that is farther along in it than you, because otherwise people are either going to look at you like they're kooky. And finally finding that in Vivian, this one person was so incredible because for the first time in my life, someone could say, "This is not evil. There is nothing wrong with you. This is real. Here's what you do." Real world tips and tricks and practices that I'm still using to this day. Thank you, Vivian. Now, the struggle. The struggle with precognition and clairvoyance is, at least for me, is that think about being told in your dream world, all the people that you know, love, even acquaintances, casual acquaintances that you meet, that every once in a while, randomly, you get a full blown, vivid download and you watch a movie basically when you're sleeping of how they die. What do you do with that? Let's say it's your uncle or your neighbor. And one night you lay down to go to sleep, and the universe decides, whoever it is or she is, decides, "Oh no, we're going to download and input all of this information into you." Okay. So you wake up in the morning. What do you do? What do you do with that information? It's complicated. There's ethics surrounding it. She introduced me to the idea that there are ethics surrounding clairvoyance and precognition. And that comes down to past, present, future, and things like that. And those ethics really require you to be very tuned in to whatever is downloading that to you. Let's say I have a dream like I described, where let's say I dream how my neighbor dies. You wake up from that dream and you need to ask spirit, the giver of that dream, "Do I share this or do I not?" You will get an immediate answer, not the secondary answer that your earthbound brain is giving you, the first answer, the first quiet answer that comes out. You will get an immediate yes or no. And if the answer is no, you do not share that dream. I have had dreams about people's divorces long before they've happened. I have had dreams about people's illness before it's happened, car accidents, you name it. So that's what happens in the dream state. The part that's clairvoyant is the same exact thing happening, but it's happening while you're awake. The way that that presents for me is so many different ways. My dream state has its own layers and its own mapping. The clairvoyant, like waking state, has its own mapping. They're very different in the way that presents for me. It has taken all 34 years up until today, even learning and mapping out exactly how that presents for me. I think for other people with that gifting or that leaning, it's going to present very differently. For me, it's very clear cut, always the same. There's consistency. That was another thing that Vivian leaned into with me. She was like, if you are clairvoyant, maybe you are tuned in that way or whatever, you have to test it. You have to get data so that you know that you can rely on it. You can't be shooting in the dark with these things. You have to test it. So she encouraged me and pushed me to start testing my gifting where it felt safe, if I was allowed, if I was following the ethics of clairvoyance and precognition and I have permission to share the thing I want to share, do it. Put yourself out there. Do you know how terrifying it is to have a precognitive dream or a clairvoyant download and then share that with someone? One, they could think you're a wackadoo. Two, you could be wrong. Three, you could trigger someone or bring up something for someone that they didn't want brought up. It is really crazy. And the scenarios that this shows up for me are really weird. Sometimes clairvoyant downloads for me come with physical touch. So I have had example. Let's just pull one out of the hat. New massage therapist. She goes to put her hands on me. I already know it's coming because I've dealt with this my whole life, right? I know that as soon as her hands touch me, it's going to be a quick of information. My clairvoyant experience surrounding touch is a quick, fast paced montage of random information. It's not organized, it's not meaningful sometimes. I got a new massage therapist. She touched my back to get started on me, and I got the name and faces of her two grandkids, the porch and address of the house that she grew up in, and a couple emotional things she was struggling with. Boom, 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 boom. Quick, like flashes, done. I just met this woman. Do you be like, "Hey, friend, is this the name of your grandchild?" Dude, they kick you out. Like, they'd be so freaked out. So you really have to read the room. You gotta read the room. When I experience clairvoyance around people's animals, the animals are on top of their head. I'm just telling it to you straight, guys, okay? Let's just get into it, all right? So, daytime waking life clairvoyance through physical touch is one for me. It just is what it is. It's about a 50-50 shot whether that's gonna happen or not. I get download through that. Another one is animals or people they're connected with. If it's a human being they're connected with, I typically get a name repeated 3 times mentally, or I will call that person the wrong name 3 times. If it happens 3 times, I'll be like, "Hey, do you know such and such?" Never been wrong. Never been wrong. Animals are on top of people's heads in like this blue translucent thing. I will literally have I'm not hallucinating. Let's make that clear. Someone will walk in or I'll meet someone and they will literally have that on their shoulder, on their head, on their back, something like that in this area, and it's like this blue translucent animal. And it will come with kind of like a semi-visual and like an information thing like that. Also never been wrong. You know, I'll meet people, like I'll go to do their hair and I'll be like, "Tell me about the horse. I thought you owned a horse at one time." Sometimes I will just slip it into conversation as if we've talked about it before. Because I don't want to freak them out and be like, "Hey, when you came in here, you had a giant blue glowing horse on your head. Tell me about that." Oh, I'm gonna get freaking canceled. This is real life, dude. And I know there is somebody listening to this right now that's like, "Yo, me too." I know it. I have different sets and types and feelings and vibes of dreams that mean different things that are encoded to me. I also have physical totems that I can use lucidly in my dreams to come up or down different layers. So, yeah, when Inception came out, I was very confused because everyone was like, "That's so crazy." And I was like, "That is not crazy. Why do you think that's crazy? Because I don't think that's crazy. That's normal." And that was when I was like, "Oh, not everyone is having this experience." So, my journey with clairvoyance and precognition has been very interesting, to say the least. That's just a word dump, thought dump about the general overview of my experience and what I live with. Now, because, like I mentioned, mine being of a darker flavor, it's not fun. I don't wanna sound like the asshole that is complaining about being given some gifting or perception. However, to be dead honest with you, it has been horrible. Absolutely freaking horrible. Walking with and having the knowledge of what someone's dealing with, or a struggle that's going to come for them, or a struggle that they're going through right now, and the deeper layers of it, and specifically surrounding people's death, I would not wish that on anyone. Now, would I go back and not have this gifting? No, I don't think so, obviously. Like, it's brought me more good than bad, and I'm stepping into a place of working with it more and being honest about it more and exercising that muscle more. But this is a real thing, but it has not been fun. It's been really freaking rough. And I'm not gonna go into examples because these people are still alive. Like, these people are alive, and if they listen to this, they'll know who I'm talking about, and I'm just not gonna do that right now because I've been told no, and I respect that. I respect that no. The reason I'm talking about this today is because last night I had one. It was horrible. It was so painful. And I'm just going about my day to day, like trying to deal with it. And what I was shown, and I know from my map that I was talking about that what I saw is what's going to happen. And I have it on the authority that those have always come true. I wish they wouldn't. I would feel so good if I had a dream and then I was like, okay, it's not going to happen. And it didn't. I'd be like, see, it's random. It's random. Your mind's just making stuff up. No, we're talking 100% accuracy every time. What does that mean? What does that say about past, present, and future? And what is the point of that? What do you do? And then you ask if you're allowed to tell that, and you're not. So you just sit with that? Do you grieve it? I don't know. That's the thing I don't have the answer to. If anybody knows, like, tell me in the comments. Some of the encouraging things that Vivian told me is the future is malleable. It can be changed. So even if it's been correct every time and that's what happens, there are multiple universes and options of outcomes, and that sometimes things change. It can be given to you in order to be more prepared to help the people that are in the scenario, and that maybe in some scenarios you can sway the outcome. That gave me a lot of comfort. It was less black and white thinking that gave me a lot of comfort. Currently, in my journey with precognition and clairvoyance, I'm much more interested in the science side of it. Now that I'm more comfortable with it and I trust it and I like believe it and I'm like, okay, fine, which has taken me my entire life to do. I'm very much interested in how the brain works, how time and space works, because there's something happening in that clairvoyant state or that precognitive dreaming where time and space are collapsing on themselves. I'm not going to go down a whole science rabbit hole through like fringe science about time and space and like the quantum realm and entanglement. But what I've come to understand is that truly, in true reality, outside of what our perception is here, time and space are kind of these linear constructs that we have put together in order to move through our three-dimensional world. Outside of our three-dimensional world, those don't really apply, or they don't apply in the way that we think. They're different than what we think. So within my waking physical form, I'm seeing three-dimensional time and space, which is linear. Do, 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 do. When I'm in a clairvoyant state or in a precognitive dream or things like that, I am outside of this three-dimensional reality. There's something crossing over, touching over, or an experience that I'm having that doesn't exist with the three-dimensional linear time and space world. So I have access to information that is outside of that, which would mean I have access to the past and present and future. Whatever it is about my faucet and how it's opened, it has to do with future and it has to do with the side of things when it comes to suffering, death, and illness, which I'm not psyched about, but it is what it is. Back to me saying, I truly believe everyone has this. I truly believe that women have this. I believe that precognition, clairvoyance, and intuition are the sacred birthright of women because we are the door between life and death, the other side. We are literally the door. We're more intuitive, our hemispheres are connected. That is our birthright gifting. And I feel like you can turn that on, you can use that muscle. One way to use it, even if you don't have the gift of dreams, you don't have precognition or clairvoyance or something like that, is just listening to your intuition. Man, you start doing that and you start working that muscle. Whew. And intuition, everyone knows this, I don't need to tell you, is that little voice like in your gut. That little voice before your earthbound brain answers. That is your intuition. You start working with that and you will find that faucet can get turned on easier than you think. One thing that's interesting is that when I was younger, I'm completely sober now. I literally don't even drink like coffee. I have like green tea. I don't even drink caffeine. When I was a stoner, because I was a hardcore stoner for a very long time, I don't do anything half-assed, we'll say that. I didn't dream as much. Weed really just turned a lot of my dream state off. And then as soon as I stopped smoking weed, wow, my dreams came back with a vengeance. So that's an interesting little tidbit. I've heard other people say that as well. Maybe that's not right for you, but what I'm saying is everyone has this. This is not some like, ooh, special, you have something. I don't think that at all. I think there's different levels to it, and I think that's just something that people are born with, and you can amplify it. I think you can amplify it in a lot of ways. So I'm very much still on this journey. I can talk more if anyone's interested about the way that this shows up for me. But I just want to be the one to say out loud, mostly for myself, that I have this. I have dealt with this my entire life. It is not sunshine and rainbows. It has been extremely difficult at times. I feel like I'm just now getting a handle on it as a person, and I feel like I have a long way to go. I feel like I have a lot to learn. I'm always looking for new mentors or teachers in this direction. There's a lot of things that you can practice, like astral projection, and things like that. I don't do much of that because I'm doing that so naturally that I don't want to amplify it. I don't want to amplify it anymore. And I'm looking to be more brave about it. I'm looking to implement it into my life more because of the accuracy. And if you have a kid that has this going on, like, please support them. Please believe them. I have had a lot of high strangeness occur in my life. Every experience I've ever had has pretty much been dipped and drenched in some sort of high strangeness and synchronicity. I just be living that way. I don't know. I didn't choose it. That's just what happens. And this is one of the strongest aspects of that high strangeness. At this point in my journey, I'm really interested in the science side of it. I want to know about precognition. I want to know about time and space. I want to know about relativity, quantum physics, things like that, because I feel like they're tied in. And I figured if I had jumped on the internet and talked about meeting a shape-shifting owl extraterrestrial, then I might as well also talk about my journey with precognition and clairvoyance. It has been very interesting, and I look forward to what the future holds, no pun intended. If there's anybody else out there dealing with this or that is more advanced than me in this stuff, please help me. I will accept any help, guidance. I will take what resonates with me and leave what doesn't. And I'm looking for like-minded people that are working with this too. So, there you go. Don't be afraid to say the weird thing because there's probably more people out there dealing with what you're dealing with than you think.